Several YouTubers have pointed out that a book publisher that they have been working with just didn't pay them for their books, along with many other things. And one of these YouTubers, NerdCubed, is alleging that they owe him approximately £40,000. That is a lot of money to be owed. What's crack, it's VangelinaSkov, and welcome to a special episode of I'm not in my usual setup. My lighting is not as good as normal. Please forgive me for that. I'm doing my best. This is the kind of video that I can do today, but I've been wanting to talk about this situation since I first heard about it a couple of days ago, and this is that a publisher called Unbound or Boundless didn't pay the writers for the work that they did. And there's a lot of really shady stuff going on under the surface. Now, a YouTuber called NerdCubed uploaded a video about this detailing what they did. But before we actually watch his video and another video that I want to look at, I want to read an article about this just to get a kind of overview of the situation. Now, if you know me, you know that my debut novel is coming out in November. So this is something that I am truly shocked by, and it's making me quite glad that I decided to self-publish rather than go with a publisher, because these were one of the publishers that I had looked at when I was considering traditional publishing. So the fact that I could have gone down that route and then basically have my work stolen is terrifying. And I feel so bad for everybody in this situation. It's absolutely horrific what they're going through. But let's have a look at this article. So this is from The Independent. Writing a book was meant to be a dream, but publishing it turned into a nightmare. Crowdfunding publisher Unbound is going into administration, leaving authors, contributors, and shareholders unpaid. Kat Brown is one of the writers left high, dry, and deeply disappointed. Now, this article is all the way from March, so this is an ongoing situation that has been really awful for a while now, but this is just to give us an overview, right? As a new author, you tend to be warned by published friends that your publication day will feel like a letdown. In the case of my anthology about infertility grief, No One Talks About This Stuff, which was published a year ago yesterday, I wasn't prepared for just how much of a letdown it would become. That's because my cherished book was published by Unbound, the crowdfunding publisher founded in 2010 by John Mitchinson, Justin Pollard, and Dan Kieran, which went into administration this week after months of unsettled payments. As one of its authors told me dryly, it has at times felt to me like their royalty statements are just another of the many works of fiction they have published. Now, I'm going to continue with that in a second, but before that, I want to tell you about the absolutely wonderful sponsor of today's video, Fume, who I absolutely adore. Have you ever realized that the majority of our bad habits aren't actually about the thing itself? Like, it's not about caffeine, it's about the ritual of making and drinking the coffee. And it's not about endlessly scrolling, it's just the muscle memory of swiping and swiping and swiping. And for some people, it's not about the nicotine, it's just about having something to reach for. And that is where Fume comes in. Now, Fume is not a vape, it's not an e-cigarette. It is a flavored air device, a sleek and natural alternative to help you break your bad habits. Essentially, it's something that helps you keep the ritual while throwing out the junk. There's no vapor, no nicotine, no electronics, no batteries. It is just natural and delicious flavors. And they do have a ton of different really nice flavors for you to try. My personal favorites are the crisp mint and orange vanilla, but if you are trying it for the first time and you don't know which flavor you want to try, I would recommend starting out with the crisp mint or with the spearmint ice, because they're just really nice and refreshing. And plus, the Fume itself is built for fidgeting, so if you're like me and you need something to do with your hands at all times, this is an absolute great alternative to picking up your bad habit, because it is perfect for fidgeting with, and it's got magnetic parts specific for fidgeting. It is just fantastic for spinning around in your hand and keeping your hands busy and away from your bad habit. And right now you can go to tryfume.com/VangelinaSkov, or scan the QR code on screen and use code VangelinaSkov to get a free fume topper when you order the journey pack today. That's tryfum.com/VangelinaSkov and use code VangelinaSkov. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on with the rest of it. I launched the crowdfunding for No One Talks About This Stuff in mid-December 2021 and was fully funded in April 2022. Now, if you're a bit confused, the way that this publisher worked was very different from any traditional publisher, because what they would do was crowdfund the book. So something like a Kickstarter, but on their own sort of platform, which meant that by the time the book got to publication, it was already backed. So they knew that people were buying the book. And I think this is actually one of the reasons why I even thought of doing a Kickstarter for my book, was because I had read about them. I was like, well, if they're doing a crowdfunding, I could just do crowdfunding. Might not be as successful, but don't trust a publisher. But here we go. So they crowdfund for the book, and then once it's successfully funded, they will publish it. That is how they worked, and it seemed like a good idea in theory, but as you will see going forward, in practice, it did not work. I was delighted to work with Unbound, whose authors include Terry Jones, Jonathan Meades, Jim Moyer, and Jackie Morris. It published Nika Shukla's 2016 anthology, The Good Immigrant, which I have backed and which received a 5-star rave review in this very paper. I chose Unbound as my publisher in part because it had a spirited history of publishing niche work that might otherwise struggle to find a home in the traditional press. My book was a collection of new writing about infertility grief from people from all backgrounds, parents and non-parents. I thought of it as a support group in a book, and it was directly inspired by the dull, unacknowledged pain that I felt as someone without children following failed IVF. I was probably still mad with grief. What sane person crowdfunds £20,000 to publish a book, for heaven's sake? But I really wanted to help people, and to fill a place on the bookshelf so that anyone suffering could walk into a shop and feel understood. And by going with Unbound, I was free to include stories that hadn't been heard before rather than lean on the familiar names that a traditional publisher might require. Because, as we all know, publishers, no hate to them, they're a business, right? They want to be guaranteed that what they're putting out is marketable and sellable. Like, they want something they know is going to make them money and make their money back. Like, it is a business. I can't fault them for that. It just means that they're less likely to take a risk on a book. But the idea was, with this sort of crowdfunding method, that it's not really a risk because people are going to back it. Now, the business between how this completely failed, I don't know, because it seemed flawless, but apparently not. Unbound's titles got good spots in bookshops and were shortlisted for prizes. One was even nominated for the Booker. All was as it should be. I threw a party for No One Talks About This Stuff, paid for and organized by me, as so many authors do, contrary to what we'd believe on Instagram. Yeah, if you ever see authors, maybe unless they're a huge name like Colleen Hoover or something, with a release party, they've paid for that themselves. I have thrown around the idea of having a release party, and I decided against it because I was like, who am I going to invite to a release party? Only 5 people I talk to live in this country. Everyone lives somewhere else. Anyway, I ran an extra Instagram account to keep supporters engaged and used my social media accounts to keep the book current. I pitched to book festivals, features, and podcasts for coverage. Months previously, I had asked whether I should tee up a bookshop to sell my books at the launch, as is custom. Unbound told me no, they would handle the sales so we could keep more of the money. This is already looking really sus, right? And as we're going to look at the videos, a lot of the things that this publisher did is really questionable. Now, the fact that this person was using them as a publisher, which means that Unbound are getting a big cut of the profits, right? They're not getting all of the profits. Unbound are getting a huge cut, as well as obviously what's taken away for printing and all of that. They still have to do all of their own social media, all of their own marketing, all of everything. They basically have to do the work of an indie author, but they have a publisher, so it's the publisher's not even serving a purpose at this point. And the fact that they don't want to be in a bookshop so they can keep most of the sales, because If you have your book in a bookshop, it normally means that the bookshop will have gotten the books with a wholesale discount. So like 50%, 55%, 40%, something like that. That's the discount the bookshop would have gotten. So your profit is less, but you're gaining the fact that your book is in a bookshop. Readers who are going into the bookshop might just happen across your book, which they might not normally, and they might buy it. Also, the fact that for some bestseller lists, for some awards and things like that, for recognition generally, you need to be in a bookshop. As unfortunate as that is. So the fact that Unbound are going, no, we'll handle most of the sales, presumably so that they can make the most profits possible while potentially hindering the reach of the book, just doesn't make any sense. 6 minutes before the party was due to start, and I am not joking for emphasis, by the way, I checked, I got an email from Unbound saying they were unable to provide any books to sell at all. No books for this. This feels like a joke, but apparently it's not. A junior staff member who had started at the company a few months earlier was the sole attendee from Unbound and had to give a speech about a book she knew nothing about to an author who was seething with frustration. With my other launch through a different publisher a month earlier, my editor, my publicist, and even the managing editor all came, as did the books, which you'd think would be an important part of a book launch party. A week after the bookless launch party, I went on Woman's Hour with Dr. Ragshri Daryawan. I'm so sorry. I really tried to say that. One of my excellent contributors. It was a specific invitation from Emma Barnett. These names are getting too much for me, guys. Who has been a great support both of me and the book for her final episode. Yet there were no copies of my book available to order other than via Amazon. The then CEO, Will Harris, had the gall to suggest to me that I should be glad my book was available on Amazon, which, by the way, is something you can do yourself as an indie author. You can get your book on Amazon really, really easily yourself. And if you do it cheaply, like you can't technically do it for free. You're probably not going to get any sales, but you can do it for free. Yet the point of going with Unbound was so that I didn't self-publish, and so people going through the horrors of infertility grief could find the bloody book in shops and feel a bit more dignified about the whole thing. I went with Unbound in good faith. Thanks to the more than 700 people who believed in the book too, I crowdfunded more than £20,000 to make it happen, and to help support others going through a horrific experience. Every other author did the same, yet the company has now gone into administration. Unbound has promised in a statement that all monies owed to authors by Unbound will be honoured by Boundless IP Limited. Now, so this is missing just a little bit of context here. So Unbound basically went under. And Unbound was then bought by a new company called Boundless for a ridiculously low sum, something like £50,000, to buy an entire company. Granted, the company was in debt, but still that's really low. And there's also the fact that Boundless is owned and run by a lot of the same people who worked for Unbound. So it's a little bit sketch, if you were to ask me. All monies owed to author by Unbound will be honoured by Boundless IP Limited, and blamed its financial difficulties on a substantial investment falling through in December in an email sent to contributors in January. However, I'm in a WhatsApp group now filled with unhappy, unpaid, Unbound authors. We feel it is Unbound in all but name, and by going into administration, apparently free of its financial commitments to authors and shareholders, it beggars belief. It also feels deeply unfair to those authors who will now no longer see their books published. As other Unbound authors have done, including Tom Cox, I am in the process of requesting my rights back from the publisher as I have no faith in them. Publishing is already a difficult game. I'm in no confusion about that. Perhaps the Unbound of a decade ago was naive in thinking it could disrupt the industry. For those authors working with vulnerable communities, it is sobering and deeply upsetting. It doesn't change the pride and esteem in which we hold our books, but my word, it leaves a nasty taste. I feel ashamed of not being able to have children. Making this book was my way of creating something good and useful out of a rotten situation. My experience with Unbound has resurrected those shameful feelings and compounded them into something even more devastating. That's the end of that article. Now, That, like I said, was from March, but just a couple of days ago, NerdCubed uploaded a video talking about his experience with Unbound, now Boundless, and it goes into a lot of detail about the kind of things that they did and the fact that, as you can see from this title, £40,000 gone. Why I'm not being paid for my book.
So, for the first time that I can remember in this channel's history, I am scripted. I'm reading a script right now because I don't want to get a single word of this wrong. Last Friday, I was informed by my publisher, Boundless.
I'm sorry to pause this in the first 18 seconds, but I just saw the comment that's being highlighted here, which is, let me change the name of my company, and now I don't owe you nothing. It kind of sums it up. Do I just end the video here? Do I just... Allegedly, guys, allegedly. Don't sue me. Although, do you guys even have money for lawyers at this point? I don't know.
Who took over from Unbound earlier this year, that I won't be paid the majority of the money that my book, The Paradox, has earned during its 5-year pre-sale period. That number, by my calculations, is over £40,000.
That's so much.
£40,000 from backers, potentially just like you. You'll never make it to me. It's gone. And it's not just me. I'm one of 238 authors, illustrators, etc. who aren't being paid for work that they have already done, for copies of books they have already sold, and that our publisher has profited from. Altogether...
So you understanding this? The publisher has not only raised money from readers who want to support this book and want to have a copy in their hands to read. They've raised that money. They've sold copies of the book, made profit from it, but they are not paying the authors who wrote it, because the company that was in charge at the time went under and was bought by a new company who just so happens to have a really similar name and be run by almost the same people.
Boundless has decided that £657,000 of money earned by authors can just be written off. And this is the tip of an iceberg that I'm going to dredge up for all of you today. Behind the scenes, publishing this book has been a nightmare. Let's start from the top. It's 2018. I am shopping around a book about video games that I was in the process of writing without much luck. Publishers didn't think it had mass market appeal, and I sort of agree, but it did have an audience that I knew would read it and would love it, so I kept looking. Eventually, I was put onto Unbound, a crowdfunding platform exclusively for books that, after the crowdfunding period, also publishes them. That's a brilliant idea. Not only does this company allow niche books to find an audience, but the crowdfunding model means that they'll never publish a book that will flop. It's a public...
This is what I was saying earlier. Like, on paper, that sounds like a fantastic idea. You know the book is being backed. You have money for the book already. You probably have pre-orders for the book before it's even been, formatted and the cover finalized and things like that. So how they managed to screw up something like this so badly is beyond me. It's absolutely unfathomable.
That can guarantee a profit on every book sold. What could possibly go wrong?
I'm going to read this for you here in case you miss it, because it goes off the screen pretty quickly. Unbound, once heralded as an innovative alternative to traditional publishing, filed for bankruptcy in March after losing approximately £9 million for shareholders. So not only did they not pay the authors, the people who were shareholders of this company lost £9 million collectively. How did they mess this up so badly?
Anyway, as far as I remember, publishing the book that I'm going to refer to here, for the sake of the algorithm, as FYVG, was fine. It was fine. I mean, the book broke 100% in 40 minutes. It hit 1,000%, the first book to do that, which even broke the Unbound website. Behind the scenes, there were a few issues, mostly with the cover. My partner Rebecca created a beautiful work of art for the front that Unbound just seemed to hate. The subtitle of the book is The Life and Extra Lives of a Professional Nerd. And to incorporate that, Rebecca drew a cover that featured me dressed as a variety of video game characters, as well as important people from my life. Unbound decided that that cover would be improved if it was just me, alone, at the bottom of the page, with my glasses tinted, so I looked like Jimmy Savile. Genuinely. But aside from that, everything seemed to go well, so I signed on the dotted line for Unbound to publish my next book, my first novel, The Paradox Paradox. This is when things went wrong. I've never received any royalties for FYVG from sales post-release. Not a penny, as far as I can tell. Feel free.
That is so messed up. Like, writing a book is one of the hardest things you will ever do, and you sign with a publisher assuming that you're going to make any money for it. Now, with traditional publishing, most of the time, you get an advance, which is an advance on your royalties. So they give you however much money they give you. It's very different depending on how successful they think the book will be. And once the royalties, your share of the royalties, once the book is published, hits that amount, say it's like 10,000 euro, right? Once the book has made 10,000 euro in royalties that should go to you, after that point, you will start getting paid royalties. So you will have gotten the 10,000 in advance, and then once you hit that in sales, you'll get the royalties. This is obviously a bit different because they're saying we're going to crowdfund it and then you're going to get royalties. But the assumption would be that you would get the royalties immediately. You're not just writing for free. Like,
correct me if I'm wrong, Unbound, but I was going through my bank statements yesterday. Nothing was there. The book released, I received all of the pre-order money, and that was it. If I recall correctly, Unbound decided to take the profits of the book, and instead of giving me my 50% cut, they used all the profits to fund a paperback run without asking me.
And surely they should have to consult you about stuff like this. Like, hey, these are your royalties, money that we legally owe to you, allegedly, assuming, the contract says that, but presumably the royalties go to the author. These are your royalties, but we think it would be beneficial if we take this and put it into a paperback run, and then it'll make this estimated amount of money for you. But they did not do that. They just took it and used it. Surely that somehow, allegedly, in my opinion, don't sue me, even though I don't think you have any money for lawyers, surely that is not legal. What the fuck?
During this, I was writing Paradox Paradox. It was moving along nicely, and it did start to take up quite a lot of time. Thinking about time travel is difficult. So I decided that, it was one of the reasons the YouTube channel fell off a little bit a couple of years back. I was just spread too thin, and I figured that it was okay because any revenue lost here will be more than made up for when the book releases. Ha 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 ha. Then we had cover issues again. I had two concepts in my head for the cover of the Paradox Paradox. Either a retro, brightly coloured cover inspired by British sci-fi comics of the 50s, or a more minimalist 1970s film sci-fi inspired cover. Rebecca made this quick mock-up of the latter, while I used AI generation to make some quick and dirty examples of the former, because like all people who use generative AI, I have no artistic talent whatsoever, and I'm not an artist. We sent all of this off to Unbound, and they came back with this.
We're all in agreement, right, that this is an ugly fucking like, no hate to the person who designed it, but it's not good. It looks like it was made on Canva. Now, granted, and this is just my opinion, the one that was made by Rebecca does not look publishable either, but he said it was a mock-up. So a mock-up means that there is more that's going to go into it to make it a polished, finished cover. This, I just wouldn't buy this. Would you buy this? Like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just being picky, but I wouldn't even, read the blurb of this, to be perfectly honest with you. I would think it was like a book for teenagers.
This is genuinely the cover that they sent. My favourite review of this cover was from a friend of mine that I sent it to. They said, I would scoff at a book with a cover like that. That's probably the most damning review I've ever read. In May 2024, I was sent a set of annotations of the book for me to go through, to just check over. We'd done this a bunch, back and forth, across 4 drafts of the book by that point, and this was a big set of annotations and notes, huge, and that was the exact moment, right there, this bit here is the exact moment that I gave up on Unbound, and I vowed to never work with them again, because the book was ruined. It wasn't just annotations, the book was ruined. The work was good, the annotations were good, but something had ruined all of the paragraphing. Suddenly, multiple characters were talking in a single paragraph, acting in a single paragraph. It was confusing. There were line breaks where there shouldn't be. It was just an absolute mess. And it's also, this wasn't the work of a person. I found a smoking gun on the bottom of page 104. A character's voice in that section is sped up, so their entire paragraph of text is written as a single word to imply speed. That had been broken up, randomly, like an automated system trying and failing to find words. Anyway,
Okay, I got a lot to say about this bit, because the assumption here, right, and again, this is all opinion, speculation, don't sue me. The assumption here is that they used AI to annotate and edit this book and give suggestions for edits, which is really fucked. You could do that yourself. Like, when you work with a publisher, you want them to provide an editor. Now, I myself am paying an editor, but a publisher would normally pay the editor, right? You could just use AI yourself if you really wanted to, but it's not going to do a good job. It's not going to do the job of a human, because it's not a reader. It's not a person who understands really with the same way that a human would understand, at least not currently. But you have to think about this if you're not convinced that it's AI, right? What he's saying is that, like, the formatting was messed up, there was line breaks where they shouldn't be. I need to question, what situation would need to occur for a human to make this error? I have been racking my brain and I can't find a possible way that a human being would make this mistake when adding annotations and suggestions for edits would somehow completely mess up the formatting of the entire book. That doesn't make any sense. How could they possibly do that? Maybe there is some way, but it seems really unlikely. What seems more likely is the fact that this was just shoved into, like, ChatGPT or something, and they went, suggest edits, and then it just messed up. And nobody checked it, and nobody fixed it. That's even the worst part, I think, besides even just throwing it into, like, an AI thing, is not checking it. Like, they didn't read it afterwards and go, oh crap, the formatting is messed up, let's fix that, or let's hire somebody to fix that. No, they just went, sure, we just send it to him, it's grand. You know, the bit he was saying about the voice being sped up, maybe this made perfect sense to you. I had to rewatch that bit like 3 times because I was like, what are you talking about? I thought he was saying that the AI had sped up the text. No, so what he's saying, you probably understood this, but for the few of you who are like me and did not, he's saying that he had written it so that all the text was joined together in, like, one thing, no spaces, so that it seemed like the character was saying it really fast. And then the person, most likely AI, tried to, like, edit that by going, oh, that's not a word. You forgot to put in the spaces, silly. Let me add those. Because, again, an AI is not a human reader. It's not going to get the same things with the same nuances. So it's just such a mess, because it seems like from every stage that he's talking about here, the publisher is not doing anything helpful. It's giving him covers that are not good. It's hindering the process. It's fundraising, but you can fundraise on, like, Kickstarter or some other platform. You can, if you really want to, you can throw it into an AI thing yourself, but you can also just pay an editor, which would be the point of the crowdfunding. I mean, it's one of the main reasons I did crowdfunding, was so that I can afford to pay an editor. What is the publisher actually doing at this point besides taking money and then not giving him royalties, using the royalties to do a paperback run without consulting him. What's his money, using his money to do this without consulting him? What is the point of them? What are they providing? They just seem worthless. Like, Boundless, more like worthless. Anyway, sorry, I had to make that joke. I'm not a comedian.
I started to type out an email that said that this was unacceptable and that they had to fix this, and I stopped. Because I didn't trust them to fix it anymore. None of these changes had been logged in Word's markup feature. So A, I didn't know what was going on, but B, that meant that I had to find and fix each one individually. Around 100 hours of work, which I failed at because there are 2 of those mistakes in the printed version of the book. Why does it look like I'm in a nuclear explosion? In March this year, Unbound collapsed into administration. A new company, Boundless, headed by most of the same people, bought all of Unbound's assets for £50,000, yet seemingly none of the obligations that came with them. In a mass email, we were told how this was a good thing and how all of our payments will be fine. And to quote many emails I received over the next few months, we are wholly committed to honouring our outstanding debts to all of you. Your contract will be honoured and transferred to the new company. Please know that we remain absolutely committed to paying all of our authors.
Now, with a bit of foresight, including the title of this video, we know that that's not the case.
The 16th of April, 2025, I sign over 5,000 book plates for the signed edition of the book during a live stream. These have arrived late, despite the fact.
A book plate, if you don't know, is just like an external signing that an author will do so that they can sign a load of them at once, send it off to the publisher, and the publisher will insert them into the book, rather than the publisher having to send all of the copies of the book to the author to sign and then send them back. It's just a logistical nightmare, so it's just easier to sign externally and then insert them into the book after.
After the book has already been delayed, but I get them done, I get them signed, I get them boxed, and then I wait. The 17th of April 2025 rolls around and the Paradox celebrates its publication date. At this point, no books have been sent out to backers, and I've not received a payment plan or even finalised earning figures for the book. The 20th of April 2025, I pop out to buy a copy of the Sunday Times to see the Paradox on the Sunday Times bestsellers list. This is one of the biggest accomplishments a book can have, and it's one that's almost essential to maintaining a career in writing. My book isn't listed, despite having more than enough sales to make it onto the list. I eventually find out that some system changed somewhere and that Unbound's pre-sales were no longer counted towards that list. My contacts at Boundless had known about this since the end of 2024, but they didn't tell me until it was too late for me to do anything about it.
So I see 2 options, and there could be extra ones I'm not seeing, but I see 2 options. One, they knew about this and decided not to tell him because that's going to make them look bad, and there was already some issues and they didn't want to look bad and they didn't want him to somehow make an issue and pull the book. I don't know if he would have legal rights to do that, but there you go. Or 2, they're useless and they just didn't think to tell him. But imagine how disheartening that would be to think, okay, I have enough sales to be on the bestsellers list. This is great. It means, I'm going to be seen as a real author. People are going to respect my work. It's going to mean that potentially the next book I do isn't going to flop. It means this book isn't going to flop. I have the sales. It's going to be in the thing. And then you check it and it's just not there because your publisher is useless. Absolutely useless.
April 22nd, I received my payment plan from Boundless detailing all the money that they owe me and when it's going to be paid to me. It's wrong. It's so wrong, in fact, that the number that they state is less than 10% of what they actually owe me. I decide that those signed book plates that I'm holding on to make sure that people talk to me during this time are very essential to me to keep holding on to. Essentially, I'm now holding my own signed copies of my book hostage so my publisher will talk to me. April the 24th, I am contacted by John Mitchinson, the co-founder of Unbound, and he tells me that the numbers that they have sent are wrong and that he will be sending me a new payment plan on the 28th of April. 5th of May, John Mitchinson tells me that I will receive my payment plan on the 6th of May. I never hear from him again, and he has since resigned. Sometime around here, someone in Twitch chat informs me, midway through a live stream, that the Paradox ebook is already being sold directly from Boundless for 85% off. A sale I was never informed about and never consented to. 30th of May.
Seems to do like a lot of things. Did I say to do? I did say that, didn't I? They seem to do a lot of things without telling him. These are the most useless publisher I have ever heard of. Like that highlighted comment says, this mayhaps feels like lawsuit time.
At 3:32 a.m., a mass email goes out to all authors, and here are some choice quotes. Boundless has no legal obligation to pay any of the debts of Unbound. The new company, Boundless, set out a voluntary plan to honour historic obligations by making goodwill payments to authors and suppliers whose royalties and invoices remained unpaid under Unbound. However, under the current conditions, the capital raised from new investors to launch Boundless Publishing Group is only sufficient to cover royalties generated from the date of Boundless's formation. Therefore, until the company is on firmer financial footing, it will be unable to make further goodwill payments on historic royalties owned by Unbound. Goodwill payments. Goodwill payments. That's the phrase right there, isn't it? Goodwill payments.
Such a mess.
I worked for 5 years on a book. Thousands of you funded it with your own money. You gave that money to Boundless, and Boundless thinks that then passing on the money that is rightfully mine to me would be an act of goodwill. But hey, if we trust them in the future, if they will do lots of money and everything's fine now, then maybe they'll pay us. Maybe they'll pay us in the future if the company does well. Yeah, I trust you. I trust you as the sales director, marketing manager, head of rights, communications director, head of finance, and 3 editors have all just left the company, a company that was, if my memory is correct, less than 18 people before they left. 238 authors. 238 people who this affects. And I've been speaking to them, and each one has their own unique story about how Unbound screwed something massive up. We've had delayed reprints, missing important dates and leading to lost sales. I've had vague foreign sales statements. We've had endless lies about almost every facet of the business. One author received an email from Unbound saying that they won't be able to provide books for their book launch event just 6 minutes before the book launch event.
That's the one that we just spoke about in that article, which is still insane to me. Like, they couldn't have said this way in advance. They went 6 minutes before the event started. By the way, no books for you for your book event. Are you kidding me? Are you joking me? Are you okay? Jesus Christ.
I've talked to authors who now can't pay bills, who can't pay rent, who can't pay mortgages, people who are having to sell their own possessions to make ends meet. This isn't people losing jobs. This is people who have done their jobs, in my case, for 5 years and not received promised, contracted income. This was money that was earned and it has been stolen by corporate shenanigans. And what happens next, I don't know. I still have the signed book plates. I suppose I can send them off now because I have actually been told when I'm being paid and how much. Never and nothing. Still, this quote from Publishers Weekly doesn't give me much hope. Even paying for shipping for books prepaid by customers is beyond the company's means at this moment. And that's as far as...
How do you fuck up a business that badly? A business that's built on crowdfunding, a business that is built on people paying you in advance. How do you mess that up so badly that not only can you not pay the people who did the work, you can't pay your shareholders, but now you also can't pay shipping for the customers who have already paid you? Do you think at this point maybe you shouldn't be running a business? Do you think at this point a different career path might be the best option? Because running a business isn't for everybody, and it's certainly not for you guys. Dear God.
As I scripted. Actually, there's a few things I noticed I didn't say during that, so I'll say them now. Yes, we've lawyered up, both individually and in groups of authors. I'm going to try and get the rights back to the Paradox, the publishing rights for it, and I want to take it to a publisher who will actually care about it and who will give it the attention it deserves and who will slap a brand new, beautiful cover on it for me. That's what I want. I want the book. I want my book back. At the end of this, the money is it's a lot of money. It's like it's a lot of money. But what's more important to me is I want my book back. You know, I've worked hard on this book. I'm never proud of anything that I do. I always poke holes and pick out the flaws. But this 165,000 words that I signed off on and went, yeah, no, you know what? I think I got it. I think I did it. It's a twisted book. It's a complicated book, but it's a kind book. It's a book about kindness, and it was really important for me to write this book. And I've wanted to write this book my entire life. I mean, FYVG was my audition. I went, okay, I want to write books, but I have an audience that watches me play games. Let's find the middle ground. Book about games. Haha, I've tricked you into realizing that I can actually write. Now buy my novel. It's worked on that side, I suppose. But I believe in this book. You know, people are reviewing it really well. Every backer has the ebook. You've at least all got the text. That was something that I was fighting for at the end of last year. So I'm really glad that you've got the, at the very least, I've got the text. But it's, I've worked really hard on it. And it's really important to me. And I'm going to get it back. I'm going to get this book back. This isn't the end. This isn't the end of this book. Like, oh, well, that failed. No, I'm going to get this back. This is just an extension on the fight for it. But it's a damn good book. I'm proud of it. I'm really proud of it. Anyway, I just wanted to put a bit at the end. Yeah.
Okay, well, we can stop there because he just talks about, like, how videos are going to go forward. Excuse the bang. I dropped my phone. But, Jesus, I feel so bad for this guy. The thing is, I feel like he has the support as a YouTuber and with an audience, and from other people who are finding the story, he will have the support to be able to make some sales when he does get his book back. I would hope that maybe at this point he's just going to self-publish, because it's not like he was getting any benefit out of having a publisher in the first place. I don't know what he's going to do. He says he's lawyering up. Hopefully he gets the rights back. Now, I admittedly hadn't heard of him until this situation, right? So I hadn't heard of his books either. And I want to read them now, if not just to support him, but also, like, the Paradox sounds interesting. But I will not be buying this book until he gets the rights back, because I do not want any of my money to go to this publisher who is allegedly stealing from the authors who did the work. So I'm going to wait, because I have no doubt that he'll be able to get it back. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it just seems pretty cut and dry to me. I do hope he'll have the support. I think he will have the support. What worries me is the authors who are owed money, who are not YouTubers, who don't have a platform, and might not be able to get the same attention and support on their stories about this, and may not be able to get more sales. And I don't know what can be done about that. I really don't. I mean, he's saying, or it said in the article, that there's a group chat. Presumably he's in it. Presumably other big names are in it. So I hope that amongst themselves they can work something out to support the people who don't have a big online following, who might not get the same support, because this situation is so messed up. People did the work and they're not getting paid, and it's just an absolute nightmare scenario. And like, I'm sorry to keep talking about me. It's just because like I've been so like involved with writing recently and trying to get my novel out, and I'm not a published author, and my first book isn't even out yet. My debut doesn't come out till November. But like, when I was looking at, should I publish or should I self-publish, like, I kept seeing so many horror stories about traditional publishing if you're not already like a big name in the book world. This is beyond anything I read. This is beyond my imagination of what could happen with traditional publishing. This is horrific, and I'm so sorry for all these people. I just hope they can get the rights to their book back. I also hope they can get their money, but at the very least, I hope they can get their books back. But let me know what you think about all of this. Again, personally, I'm going to hold off until he gets the rights back and republishes the book to read it, because I do not want to give any money to Boundless, Unbound, whatever the fuck they're calling themselves. But let me know what you think. I'm not using this as an opportunity to talk about my book, but I did bring up my book, so just if you're interested. I put up updates when there's like a really big update on the Kickstarter. I also share stuff on Instagram. You can find me at VangelinaSkov. And yes, the book is coming out in November, and I'm really excited for you guys to read it. And I'm really glad that I didn't, because like I said, I had looked at Unbound, and I had gone, oh, that sounds like a really cool idea. Maybe I could query them. But I didn't. I didn't query any publisher, and I'm really glad at this point that I didn't. So yeah, you can follow me there. Please subscribe, and it helps me a lot. And turn on notifications, like, comment, share. And don't forget to check out Fume. You can go to tryfume.com/VangelinaSkov, and you will get a free Fume topper when you order the Journey Pack today. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring today's video, and thank you for watching today's video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!